Hi there, I'm Tarek Roshdy.
And I'm Youssef Mestekawy.
And I'm Mohammed ElBanna. Today we're going to be taking a closer look at Japan, specifically from 1920 to 1940, the interwar period. The different things we'll be talking about will be things like Japan's shift from a pro-West country to a fascist militaristic country, its rise to nationalism, and other relevant topics. First, let's cover Japan's background. Japan has just emerged as a victor of World War II. During the war, it conquered Germany's colonies in the Pacific and loaned a significant amount of money to both Britain and France. This may not be as important as a role as other countries, but did earn it a good level of respect with the Allied countries. After World War II, Japan is seeking territory from China, specifically Manchuria, mainly for natural resources. There seems to be a power struggle between the left wing and the right wing. There's obviously a lot going on in Japan. To understand how Japan became a militaristic dictatorship, we need to understand how much control the Japanese government actually had over the country.
Have you seen the well-to-do up and down Park Avenue on that famous thoroughfare with
This is where the term zaibatsu comes in. Zaibatsu is a Japanese term describing corporate alliances, where companies and businesses would merge together to eventually control over really significant areas of the economy. How did zaibatsu affect Japan, you may ask? It's simple. Zaibatsu were so powerful that they influenced national and foreign policies. They were the heart of industrial and economic activity in the Empire of Japan. The four major zaibatsu, the Riken, the Seiyukai, the Mitsui, the Riken Mansito, and the Mitsubishi groups controlled 30% of the mining industries and over 60% of the stock exchange. This impacted the government because external parties had major control over the economy and could essentially bend the power of the government on its own will. It's quite easy to see how in control the government was, right? The government is the Taishu democracy, established in 1905, and slowly crumbled until it was crushed in 1931. This was a period of time and an ideology. The principles for this Taishu democracy were basically that the working class and the bourgeois had the right to get involved with national politics. Parliament was effectively less useful than before as it was more divided and could not withstand the political instability of the 1930s.
The Taishu democracy dissolved due to one main reason: power struggle. The government faced many threats from the military and the extremist political parties. However, the military increased its disobedience to the government and soon overtook the authority in Japan. This came through events like the Manchurian crisis and the coup d'etat on the 15th of May 1932.
The Manchurian crisis was Japan's invasion of the Chinese area of Manchuria, where the Kwantung Army, led by Hideki Tojo, detonated a small amount of dynamite near a railroad in that area. Using that as justification against the Chinese, they claimed the area of Manchuria for themselves. In fact, they still claim that it was the Chinese who detonated the dynamite to this day. This already shows the extreme way in which the Japanese army takes matters into its own hands. It didn't stop there, however, as there was even worse to come. On the 15th of May 1932, right-wing members of the Japanese Navy and military launched a coup d'etat, a violent change of government, where they assassinated Prime Minister Ihokai Tsuyoshi. With political turmoil and chaos, some extremist parties come into the scene. Into the Black Dragon Society, a right-wing political party founded by Ryohei Uchida. The party strongly opposed the government and inspired nationalist uprisings and revolts. The party didn't actually do much directly, but due to their close ties to the military, it just further increased military power.
Japan's relations to the West were further deteriorated after the Manchurian incident when it withdrew from the League of Nations in 1933. The League failed to reach a conclusion and failed to punish Japan, leading to diplomatic isolation from most major nations in the League. The military eventually took complete control over the Japanese government after a second attempt at the coup d'etat on the 26th of February 1936. The military attempted to assassinate several important members of the government, including the Prime Minister at the time. They did not succeed in killing all of the designated targets, but it was clear that the military had already taken over. This is the part when Japan starts siding with the Axis powers. In 1936, Japan signed an anti-communist pact with Nazi Germany, while many other fascist countries soon followed, such as Italy and Spain. This is important because it was a decisive moment in which Japan abandoned its British, American, and French allies and started to move towards similarly dictatorial countries, specifically Germany and Italy.
This brings us to 1937, 2 years before World War II. Japan finally signs the Axis alliance with Italy and Germany, forming the Axis powers. They all had two common interests: expanding their territory and founding empires with military forces, and the destruction of communism, which posed a big threat to their fascist ambitions.
The final war Japan fought before World War II was the Second Sino-Japanese War. Continuing its trend of military invasions against China, Japan invades more of China's territory. The Japanese fight many successful battles in the beginning of the conflict, but it soon drags on into World War II, becoming a burden on Japan and slowly turning towards a military defeat. And with this, we reach the conclusion of our podcast. We have seen how Japan changed radically in the favor of nationalism and militarism in its entry into World War II. We hope you actually learned something about Japan during the interwar period, and we hope you enjoyed our video.